It's still shocking to me that we have a Mario Kart game with 96 tracks, and I can't wait for the next game to look like this. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's record-high track selection contains lots of phenomenal tracks, old and new, but that also means there's plenty of room for stingers. And the fact that one half of the game being made in the 2010s while the other half was finished just a few months ago by a different team adds to the lack of quality control. So Deluxe ends up giving us the absolute peak of Mario Kart tracks alongside ones that make you want to commit Mushroom Gorge Jump IRL. I did a community post asking my audience what they believe to be the worst Mario Kart 8 Deluxe track, and in this video we'll be looking at some of the responses and explain how I agree or how I respectfully disagree with them. Let's start with the most common response from the poll, Baby Park. Some of you are probably in disbelief seeing this here, and my younger self would be too, because I used to love this track for its chaotic nature and fun atmosphere, but the more I'm forced to play it online, the more I start to understand the haters. Before I explain why I dislike this track now, I want to bring up the original Double Dash version for comparison. Baby Park was infamous for the fact that it was 7 laps around a small oval. Since the layout is so simple, skill doesn't really make a difference, so the outcome of the race pretty much relies on the items. The items are what turn this from a generic oval to absolute chaos. Bowser shells and giant bananas going all over the course, and since the track is so small, racers get hit by shit getting thrown around constantly, and it's an experience you won't get from any other track. I won't waste my time on Mario Kart DS's Baby Park, we all know it sucks, so let's just jump back to 8. First off, the visuals are amazing. I love how fleshed out the theme park is, and I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo World's look was inspired by this, or vice versa. Other than the visuals and the fact anti-gravity is on the whole time, this is more or less the Baby Park you remember. And I couldn't put my finger on what makes me not like this one as much, but I figured it out. It's getting hit by stuff. In Double Dash, when you get hit by something, it's a slap on the wrist and you gain your speed back almost immediately. Whereas in 8 Deluxe, you lose all of your speed and have to slowly pick it back up. Constantly getting violated by items in the original Baby Park was fun and hectic, but in 8 Deluxe it's just pain, and not the fun kind either. So that's how I started to see this as not the worst track, but it's down there, and realized that the concept of Baby Park really only works in the original. Our next contestant is Toad Circuit. I know, I'm also in complete shock. Toad Circuit either does nothing, or when it does something, it's just wrong. The layout is super generic, practically a figure 8, but more notably, this is the ugliest track in the game. The Booster Course Pass is infamous for the visuals being highly inferior to the base tracks due to being ripped from Mario Kart Tour, and in Wave 1 in particular looks awful. Someone changed the TV to the Garfield show when I wasn't looking. And I hate that Shroom Ridge, one of my favorite DS courses, suffered from this as well. I know people complained a lot about the graphics back then, and there's a counter argument that the visuals don't matter, only the gameplay. But what I loved about the original Mario Kart 8 tracks is the attention to detail. It felt like we were racing in an authentic Mario world instead of Toontown. Anyways, I kinda got distracted from talking about Toad Circuit because there's not much left to say, it's just ugly and boring. Like me, but I'll give credit to the music. It slaps, but that's kind of a given from Mario Kart 8. This lad's choice is SNES Rainbow Road, claiming that it's pretty bland and that being iconic doesn't necessarily mean it's good. And I agree with that statement. I mean, Garden of Banban is iconic, but I don't know if I would agree that this is one of the worst. Hell, I kind of like it. First off, looks stunning. I love the Rainbow Road itself and the lights going off on the hills. Although we're kind of pushing the idea of a Rainbow Road in space when it's this low to the ground, but whatever. The layout itself is basic, especially for a Rainbow Road, but at the same time it's pretty challenging with the sharp turns. It's some ramps that go off the edge to really test your shortcut skills. The track is most known for the thwomps, smashing down on the road to create ripples for you to trick off of, and I like this mechanic. You want to get close to the thwomps to get some tricks off the waves, but not so close that you hit the thwomp itself. Although I admit tricking off the waves can be jank at times, the timing can be a bit hard to pin down. But overall, I think it's solid. Maybe it would rank lower for me if it weren't for the Booster Course Pass, which sent in a wave of mid that by default makes me rank this one higher. Another popular choice is Mario Circuit 3. Oh, sorry. Mario Circuit 3. First off, why is this in the game? So, it was originally in the first Mario Kart, then it was remade on the Wii, and then in Tour, and now it's in the Booster Course Pass. Why does Nintendo love this track? It's not that good. And why won't they remake Mario Circuit 4? Are they stupid? But anyways, how's the track itself?
It's alright. I had better at a school cafeteria.
Like it's a Super Mario Kart track, you just have to expect mid, except when you don't. But I'll admit, this is kind of fun. I find some of the turns to be fun to pull off at times, but don't get the impression that I like this track because as a whole, yeah, it's doggy doo-doo. I appreciate the classic Mario arrangements of blocks and pipes on the outside, but that doesn't get you far with shitty graphics. Mario Circuit 3 is also a contender for one of the ugliest in the game. It's just one of the worst in the whole game because it's just a nothing sandwich. Baby Park is painful, but at least something is going on, so at least that's a nail soup. I'm surprised only one person said this, but their pick was Sunset Wilds. Really the last disappointment in the Booster Course Pass, where they would pop the hell off in Wave 6. Wave 5 in general was a huge downgrade from 4 for some reason, and one of the biggest offenders was Sunset Wilds. Now I was excited to see this at first, but a bit anxious about the fact we never saw the main gimmick in the trailer, which was that after each lap the time of day would progress from sunset to night. But I'm sure they're keeping it a surprise. So then I played it and... they did not have the sun set in Sunset Wilds. The only thing more baffling than this is that people actually defend this. They'd be like, actually they couldn't make the sunset because the engine doesn't support dynamic lighting or some shit. My uncle at Nintendo told me. He also told me that Mario Odyssey is coming to the GameCube. You can implement half pipes when the game originally didn't intend for them to exist, but they can't change the skybox. Okay, buddy. But even for some reason they just couldn't do it, that's not an excuse. You know what you could have done? Not add Sunset Wilds. A better choice for a Super Circuit track would have been Bowser Castle 4. That track in Tour slaps, but I can't play it when I want to because of the game's shitty track shuffling. Bowser Castle 4 is stuck in that game forever, meanwhile we're stuck with this. This isn't one of the worst solely because of that. The layout is also really lame, it might as well be from Super Mario Kart. And once again, looks terrible. This is supposed to be mud, but it's more like the aftermath of Chipotle. I think I gotta fix this real quick. There we go, much better. Unsurprisingly, Tokyo Blur was another choice. So the real-life city tracks are pretty controversial in Mario Kart 8. Some appreciate it for its changing route every lap, but others find them more complicated than they need to be, and that they just see it as Booster Course Pass filler. Me, I like some of them a lot, but the majority are kinda sleepers. It doesn't help that these city tracks are oversaturated, like there's 14 of them. I love the F-Zero tracks, but I wouldn't want 10 more of the same premise. I also don't like that it confirms that the Cold War is Mario canon. The worst of these city tracks is Tokyo Blur. It has none of the stuff I like about cities and everything I don't. Look, I've never been to Tokyo myself, but come on, if you can make LA, also known as Hell on Earth, interesting by translating its landmarks into fun track design, you could have done the same for the city in your home country. As for the changing routes, let's see. Lap 1, you take a left turn. Lap 2, get this, you take a right turn. And final lap, you go on a freeway with nothing going on. So boring and unimaginative, and they really thought adding thwomps would make it actually challenging. But once again, the music is a banger. It actually shares a bit of the Toad Circuit theme. I am officially calling this the boring as fuck track motif. The last response we'll be going over is Super Bell Subway. Excuse me? I don't know which one of us is in the minority, but I think Super Bell Subway is far from the worst. In fact, I think it's pretty good. I'd say a high B tier. Okay, now I'd be lying if I said I wasn't in the same boat when it first came out. It just seemed like filler between the retro tracks and the crossover tracks for the DLC cups. The fact that it's between Ribbon Road and Big Blue doesn't really help either. But the more I played it, the more I started to appreciate the track for what it is. The setting is a concept never seen before, yet it fits so well as a racetrack. I love all the paths you can take underground, and managing to jump off the top of the trains is really satisfying. Once you're above ground though, yeah, it's kinda meh. But what I love most about this track is the world building. On the sides of the station, you can see a map of train routes, and there's a list of destinations that are actual Mario Kart tracks. This is what I was talking about when I was saying that the base game tracks feel more alive because of all the attention to detail. Meanwhile, in the Booster Course Pass, you can enjoy Coconut Mall from VeggieTales in the city. Again, I said this is a high B tier. It's pretty good, not the best, but I definitely wouldn't say the worst. But if you don't really care about all the little things, or you find the trains more frustrating than challenging, then I can see why this track wouldn't be that special to you. So I guess I'll just have to respectfully disagree. So that's pretty much all the responses I got from you guys I thought was worth mentioning. But before we end things off, you might be asking, what is my pick for the worst Mario Kart 8 Deluxe track? Well, my choice was set in stone for years, before and after the Booster Course Pass. A track that left me disappointed pretty much on day one. A track where there might be objectively worse tracks. No other track infuriates me as much as Toad's Turnpike.
What the fuck?
Before we unravel that, let's talk about Mario Kart 64. It's a very nostalgic game to me. I played on the Wii Virtual Console, I'm not 30. I don't think it aged that well replaying it, but it still has its charm. I love the atmosphere and aesthetics of the game, and my best example to show that would be Toad's Turnpike, one of my favorites in the game. This is the first of the genre of tracks where it's a highway with other cars and trucks you have to avoid. It's actually pretty challenging, and in multiplayer it's absolutely hilarious seeing other people get decimated by a bus. The gameplay is admittedly simple, but the atmosphere is just fascinating. The skybox could be interpreted as either the sun setting or rising over the night sky, or the light coming from a distant city. Either way is just as magical. The setting appears to be like this long interstate with no city for miles. I might be getting too sentimental here, but this kind of setting hits home since my family used to travel fairly often. So it's a decent traffic course with a nice skybox and a nostalgic setting. So what? Well, I haven't gotten to the best part yet. The music. The studio from Mario Kart 64 somehow perfectly captured that vibe of just looking out a car window on a freeway at night, just appreciating all the distant sights since your devices ran out of battery and you're bored as fuck. Toad's Turnpike perfectly encapsulates that, not just from the music, but also the visuals and the gameplay. There are much better designed courses in the series, don't get me wrong. The cars can be seen as frustrating, but especially in multiplayer, it's a fun kind of frustrating I can get behind. And when it comes to the atmosphere and the setting, this is one of my personal favorites of the classic era. Okay, back to my grouchy YouTuber persona, I have to bitch about Mario Kart 8's Toad's Turnpike. I'll first admit that I like the unique cars. You can trick off the one with a skateboard in the back, and you can glide off that one truck. That's kind of cool. Other than that, I have never seen a track been remade with such a poor understanding of the original. The weakest part about the OG was the layout. You know, just a figure 8. But at least it was tight and compact, meaning the cars were an actual obstacle. Now at some parts, you can drive on these walls of anti-gravity, which makes the track way less challenging since you don't have to worry about the cars for huge chunks of the race, defeating the whole purpose of the original. Some may see this as a good thing, but I personally like how the OG had it so that the cars were a constant obstacle you had to stay on your toes for. Now that intensity is pretty much gone, since also the road is wider. But what was sabotaged the most was the glorious aesthetics of the original. That beautiful purple, holy shit. This beautiful purple horizon, gone. It is now like 10 p.m. That feeling that you were just passing by in this long interstate, now we're just in a city. It no longer has its own unique identity. This remake just copied the homework of Mushroom City, and did worse. And I don't know how they did this. How you pull this off in a game with soundtracks so legendary. Toad's Turnpike's music in 8 is extremely mid. I guess it's not horrible on its own, but compared to the enchanting sound of the original, this is just generic techno shit. Everything about this track is worse than the original, and on its own, when you don't compare it to the original, it's just boring. It's bland. Whenever this gets picked online, my soul just leaves me. My ability to emote is gone. I am not me for 2 minutes. And for some ungodly reason, back in the Wii U, where the battle arenas were just regular courses, they chose Toad's Turnpike, a long figure 8, as one of the battle arenas. What? Okay, I should probably stop before I turn into one of those SpongeBob rant channels.
Security system takes control of Squidward's house and begins attacking the city.
And that is why this is my absolute least favorite in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Because it's a horrible track on its own, and it's a horrible remake of a great track from the classic era. Oh my god. This sucks. From this video, I've seen lots of valid answers for what is the worst Mario Kart 8 Deluxe track. There are many tracks that are ugly, boring, frustrating, but it's rare for a track to completely piss on itself. Sunset Wilds is the same case of completely trashing on the original, but I don't nearly have an attachment to that as I did with Toad's Turnpike. There was a lot of complaining in this video, but despite its lowest lows, I still believe Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to have the strongest track selection in the whole series, both quantity and quality wise. And really all the tracks we talked about that are the worst is really just cherry picking, and the majority of the tracks are really strong. And no matter how good or bad the tracks may be, it doesn't matter because Woohoo Loop is better than all of them. I swear to God, bring it back in the next game or I will die. Well, that concludes another yapping session. Thanks to everyone who participated in the poll. If I was mean to you, don't worry, it's just a bit. I don't actually hate you. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm sure you guys will be nice.